everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And welcome to this week's weekly recap, where we actually have another pretty full week with a new football commit, talking about the portal for both men and women's basketball, as well as the Batcats. But let's just go ahead and dive straight into the newest member of the K-State football family for the 2027 class. And that is a surprise commit. Certainly one that I don't think was on either of our radars. Someone that before he committed, we didn't really know much about. But, it ends up getting a new linebacker from the state of Oklahoma, and that is Colton McComb, who was actually heavily pursued by both of the in-state schools in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So finally, we get one over on burnt vegetables after he has ganked linebackers from the state of Kansas for the past, Isaiah Simmons is the first one that comes to mind. I'm sure that there's a bunch more other than that. But we finally get one over in the state that he is currently coaching in the state of Oklahoma. And, McComb is listed as a high 3-star on both Rivals and 24/7. Industry overall ranking on Rivals has him as an 86, so borderline 4-star on the two not the aggregate, but the two individual sites that have him rated. And we say this about just about everyone that commits to K-State, with very rare exception. Funnily enough, the exceptions are still on the roster as opposed to and maybe there's something to be said about that, but I really do like a lot of Colton McComb. And a big reason for that is he reminds me of Asa Newsome. Who, say what you will about Asa Newsome, he was a really good and a really rangy high school linebacker who has just had horrendous injury luck at K-State, and who knows if he'll ever be the same. But high school Asa Newsome is still absolutely a take 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's a good perspective to have. And yeah, I agree. I really like him. I wasn't sure what I was going to think because I saw that he committed, and I like you hadn't heard of him until he committed. And yeah, I like the Asa Newsome comp, and we were talking before the episode, and I threw in that he has that Asa Newsome fluidity in space and also a similar build. He's not quite as tall as Asa. I think he's an inch or two shorter, but he has that similar long arm look to him. But he brings a similar violence to the linebacker position, but at the high school level that Jake Clifton did. And I remember really liking Jake Clifton's high school film, and it's McComb. He's also an Oklahoma guy, as Ace said, so he has that in common with Clifton as well. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to see some of the flashes that Asa has shown from Colton McComb. But yeah, right now this football staff, it kind of feels like they're almost just kind of picking and choosing to a certain degree. Like they see a guy, and if they decide they're comfortable and want to go forward, it feels like more times than not they're kind of getting who they want at the high school level right now. It's still extremely early in the cycle. In the next month or so, I think might say a lot about just how good of a staff for recruiting Klein has built. And then also it'll say a lot about maybe the NIL commitment as well, because Jake Narat will make a decision, I believe, by the end of the month.
It's the end of the month, yeah.
Yeah. And there's probably a few other big fish out there that K-State's going for. And not just in this cycle, but in the next as well. So, it's a interesting time, I think, for K-State football recruiting. I'm hoping that we'll see a similar level up on the Klein era, kind of like how Kleiman, I think, really leveled up K-State recruiting. And, for all that Kleiman did, which he did a lot of good for this football program, he doesn't really get enough credit for upgrading K-State recruiting from where it was under Bill Snyder. I mean, when you and I first started this show, we were still in the era of if another power conference school offered a player we were after, there was a like coin flip chance that it was like over right then, especially if they were not from Kansas. So there's but we've gotten to a point where we can now be competitive and even really steal a few higher rated guys, and Klein might be able to take the next step there.
Yeah. And I like that you point out, and one last note on Colton McComb is that you brought up the Jake Clifton comp. He does play with a similar level of violence. I will say that Jake Clifton was a little bit further ahead sort of mentally, because that was always Jake Clifton's calling card, was he was always excellent at diagnosing the play. So you can get very far as a linebacker with that skill set, but I do like where Colton McComb is in his processing. But I like that you point out that K-State has done well recruiting, and they're able to sort of be picky. I mean, Julian Elsley, I should say, is another example, which I believe we talked about a couple weeks ago. And, he is a Georgia kid that was getting interest from Georgia. I'm not going to dig any deeper into that, whether or not, for all I'm concerned, they were putting the full court press and he was the number one player on their board. But K-State is able to sort of be picky right now, and I think that just goes into both their talent evaluation, which, if it's anything close to what Kleiman's talent evaluation was, I appreciate that you pointed out that he definitely elevated recruiting, but he may have been, for as good as Bill Snyder was at just sort of forging guys from literally nothing into being functional power 4 or power 5 football players, I feel like Kleiman was very good at just sort of finding really under-recruited guys, not unrecruited guys, but under-recruited guys that still had the talent for this level, but just maybe had like one flaw or something like that. I mean, obvious example is Deuce, where he was short. That was his flaw. And Cooper Beebe, no one knew what position he was going to play. Everyone thought he was going to be a defensive tackle. He moves to guard and becomes the best offensive lineman in K-State history. So if they're able to, I mean, I'm not expecting the same level of talent evaluation. I feel like that's slightly irresponsible. But if we're able to maintain a similar level and can recruit at the clip that we've shown, there's no reason to not expect us to keep growing the program in a way that we have.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said.
Yep. So welcome to the family, Colton. And now we can let's talk about the women's basketball team first, because that's a little less grim in terms of the news, where K-State has announced the 8 players that are returning. It's Taryn Sides, Gina Garcia, thank God, Brandy Herod, Ivana Sekic, Ramaya White, Michaela Parks. Oh boy, which 2 am I missing?
Go through your list again here.
Sekic, Sides, Garcia, White, Herod, Parks, Classens.
And they're including the new freshman, Sage Henry.
Oh, okay.
As well.
Okay. So Sage Henry. You may notice that Anaya Foy, she already announced her intentions last week. Jordan Spicer is entering the portal as well. That one hurts, but at least we got to keep Gina Garcia. Again, losing Spicer does really, really hurt just because of how absurdly talented she was. But it sounds like one of those situations where sort of the Zy Walker situation, where they were going to get a lot more money than we were willing to pay for them, which, both Zy Walker, I think Jordan Walker, let's just combine them. I think Jordan Spicer has the higher ceiling of the 2 players, but Zy Walker is also a god tier defender. So, I mean, do what you will with that. So we do have some spots on the roster to fill, which maybe we'll be a little more active in the transfer portal than we thought, because we do need to replace. We do need to replace the scoring of Tess Heel. We do need to replace the production off the bench of Spicer and Foy. So it'll be interesting to see how things go with the women's team. I still think that we're a good draw for the women's portal entries, to where you could pull someone like a Gabby Gregory. I don't think we're quite at the stage where on strict competitiveness we're pulling another Tamira Poindexter. I think we're a year off of that, where we can promise, hey, we're one starter away from being a second weekend team. I think we're a year off from that, but we do have a lot of playing time to sell at every position other than top two guards. So there's that.
Yeah, it sucks to lose Jordan Spicer for sure. Because I thought that, especially when we got really as the further the season went, I thought the better she was getting, the more comfortable she was looking. Especially the Big 12 tournament, she was fantastic. So really hurts to lose her, but outside of that, I think most of our losses, like, we can fill those voids. Spicer's just a incredible shooter, so it'll be difficult to replace that. But we still have Terrence Sides. I think Clausen's could maybe develop if she figures out how to add arc to her shot. But yeah, I agree. We should be a decent landing spot for maybe some other portal ads. I think we have an intriguing core to build around. I mean, hypothetically, I would love if we could go get a starter ready, true center, but I don't think there's going to be a school in the country that doesn't want that, and that's going to break the bank. So we need to send a wire to Paul Edgerly on that one, I guess. But yeah, and outside of that, I think we're going to be looking for probably an experienced wing like Tess Heel. I mean, she was so good for us down the stretch, and then also some bigs as well, some forwards with some more offensive upside. Because I really like Shekic. I think she could end up being kind of like a cult hero status type of player for K-State women's basketball. Because she is a good player, but I do think her ceiling's limited. But I think if we get a scoring threat with some size, that'll be really helpful for us.
I wonder what Amani Lester is doing nowadays.
She was at Rutgers this year, and she actually was quite good. I mean, Rutgers, I should say, was terrible. They were absolutely awful, but Amani Lester actually played very well, at least statistically, for Rutgers this year. The Big Ten standings. Yeah, Rutgers was dead last in the Big Ten. They went 9-20, 1-17 overall. So kind of like K-State men this year. But Amani Lester was the third leading scorer on that team. She played in 26 games, 41% from the field, 29% from three, which I didn't know she could do. Then 10.8 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, about a block a game. So pretty good season, all things considered. She really kind of took the next step here for Rutgers this year. Had a season high of 17 points and a home loss to Penn State.
So my irrational.
You saw something there, and you weren't entirely wrong. I mean, for what it's worth, of course, Rutgers was very bad, but you weren't entirely wrong in seeing something there, because even bad teams have bad players, and Amani Lester was not that. She was a solid player on a very bad team.
Yeah, but I will be interested to see how the women's team sort of gets to reload. And you look at the rosters we only have 8 people returning. Remember, it could be worse. Iowa State lost everybody.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's been announced if Bill Fennelly is staying or going at this point. If I were him, I'd honestly retire. Like,
Mhm.
like I think this is as graceful an exit as you're going to get in this era at this point, like without winning like a national championship, which is just not going to happen for
No.
Iowa State at this point. So especially when their athletic director is like putting out like these weird self-recorded videos like every other month about like cutting sports and like cutting budgets and stuff, and like I don't know, like Gene isn't exactly like a PR wizard, but like he's
Not
at
that
least got one over Jamie Pollard.
Yeah. Um, I will say that Audie Crooks is probably about to set. Well, no, I was about to say she was about to set a record for like women's post players, and then I remember Cardoso existed. Um, she's gonna get paid handsomely, probably by one of the big five. So South Carolina, Notre Dame, LSU, UCLA, Texas.
I can't see her working in Texas with Vic Schaefer. Like, I think he's gonna have to ask her to try on defense, and
It's
that's
just
just
not
not gonna work.
acceptable.
That's
Yeah.
just
the the women's team still has a core to build around. The men's team, that's rough because we know exactly three players that are going to be on next year's team. It's Andre Kostic and two high schoolers, which, hey, I'm glad that we have Kostic back, but everything else is going to be a restart. PJ Haggerty is going to get upwards of $2 million to go play somewhere else again. Abdi Bashir is getting interest from schools that I didn't quite expect just because he's an amazing shooter. David Castillo is trying to rid himself of the Jerome Tang stink by going elsewhere. It makes me sad that he's gone, but I understand why he's gone. Xavier Wilson, goodbye, we never knew thee. And then Taj Manning getting a projection to go to Iowa State, of all places, is so weird to me. But we're not breaking any news here by saying this might be a little rough. And I think that it was always going to be rough in the eyes of the fan base because Casey Alexander has always been known as a talent evaluator, not necessarily a recruiter. So you take that into account with the fact that he's almost certainly going to have a much, 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 much smaller budget because donors just got burnt by a used car salesman. And they're having to probably pay a little bit of that buyout. So they're probably a little gun shy. And any money that might have existed is probably going to the local hero in Colin Klein. This is not an enviable position to be in. That is why I say the portal outlook right now is grim. And that's even before talking about, any transfer portal news, which subscribe to KSL. That's all I'll really say there.
I do have some info that just came out 20 minutes ago. Sam Orm has committed to Nebraska, which really hurts me, especially because I feel like that was kind of the guy that we latched onto first before Charnowski became the big name. But Sam Orm, honestly, that's a huge miss for K-State. This is a guy I really just had penciled in as coming with Casey Alexander. But yeah, the early returns in the portal have not been as good as we anticipated. And right now, I'm not really upset with Casey Alexander on that. I get that, yeah, the funds are probably flowing a different direction right now. But it doesn't mean it doesn't suck. But I would like to see maybe some more public facing like pushes for funding from the athletic department on this, like, because they made some pretty big pushes with Colin Klein, and we've seen that kind of start to return already. Like we're getting returns on that already. But yeah, like we're getting like we need more if we want to fund football and basketball because K-State has pretty much throughout its entire history never been good at football and basketball at the same time. Like unless they've like overlapped, like passing ships in the night, like as one was getting better and the other was getting worse, and they were the same for about a year or so. Other than 2012, when like we were just good at everything, but that was kind of an anomaly. But yeah, very, very, very sad with Sam Orm headed to Nebraska.
Yeah, and I mean we have one commit, and that's Brock Weiss, who's transferring from Murray State, who's a guy who's had three other stops. If he is anything except like an end of the bench guy, I'm pissing myself because we are bad. Like there is no way around it. We're just bad.
Yeah, Vice. I'm like hoping the extent of what he's doing for us is going to be a like probably like ninth guy in the rotation sort of level. I'm fine with him playing if he's like kind of like an innings eater, like in the pitching. I want him to be able to come out for a few minutes and like not just play hard, but also like play okay, like do decent, like maybe eat up a couple fouls and grab some like hard rebounds and dive for some basketballs. Like it sucks that he's the first commit because it comes off as every commit we're going to get will suck. That's just not really how roster building works. You don't add people in an order. It's like shooting a movie. Like you don't film unless you have a like specific reason to or desire to. You do not like film the scenes chronologically as they happen. You just do it as like it works best for you. In this case, Brock Weiss probably said, "Hey, like I'll commit and I won't cost much money," and we said, "Okay."
Yeah, it might be a rough portal season for the men, and I do think it is worth reserving judgment on Casey Alexander for the first year because let's be blunt, he is kind of walking into a nightmare. I mean, all the reasons I've gone to before, K-State hasn't really been like we've had splotches of relevance in the past couple of years. You know, the Marquise Noel KJ team run to the Elite Eight, where Marquise Noel will need back surgery for the carrying that he did during the entirety of that tournament. But outside of that and the Big 12 championship season, we've just kind of been on the periphery. And especially recently, when we have been mentioned, the narrative has been we are rich but still suck, which I don't think there's an appreciation for how damaging a narrative that is, especially whenever rich and sucks just becomes, okay, obviously pushing this much money into basketball isn't working. So now we're just going to try and get a guy who does more with less. And people use that as like a pejorative, saying, oh, you know, he does more with less. Like, oh, so he can't recruit. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I mean,
yeah, I don't think that's quite true, especially because like it's worth saying that this year's Belmont recruiting class was the best in their school history, and then it was I think Jalen Alexander was the highest rated commit that they've ever had. It was either him or Hutcherson. That's one of the two that we got to flip to us. Was the highest rated commit in Belmont history. And for what it's worth, I think Hutcherson and Jalen Alexander are very talented players. And I would have liked them probably even if Jerome Tang had landed them, but he didn't recruit high school.
Yeah. And I think that brings up another point where Casey Alexander strikes me as a person who, you know, we always memed on Jerome Tang for saying, oh, you know, Houston model, where you recruit, like the basis of your roster is high school guys, and you get complementary pieces or your quote unquote star players from the transfer portal. I think Casey Alexander more subscribes to that philosophy. The problem is, in order to get there, you have to be somewhere for a few years. And he just doesn't get that luxury right now.
Yeah, to have a foundation, you must build it, which is unfortunate. And it can be done quickly in some situations, but you really need to thread the needle on that. I mean, we saw that with Indiana and Kurt Signetti in football. Like, that's a way to build a foundation quick. I mean, because in 2 years, like, they completely turn that program around. But more often than not, we get flameouts like Trim Tank, where it comes together quick and just completely falls apart, or it never comes together at all. So I'll like, and yeah, I don't want any of this to seem like I'm saying like you should be happy with how portal recruiting's going. I don't think like that's not what I mean. If you want to be upset about how it's going, like that's completely valid, because losing Sam Worm and Charnowski being like up in the air, that's valid to be upset about, because bringing guys from Belmont kind of seemed like something I think that most fans were just kind of like writing in and not really like considering like if it would actually happen, and for good reason. But I also like am saying, you know, like as a whole, like I'm waiting. I'm kind of in wait and see mode on Casey Alexander as a whole, even if the portal cycle is not going well right now, like because it just isn't.
Yeah. And being fair, the portal did just open.
That is true. It's been open for like 2 days at the time of recording, so like that's again also another point where it's just, you know, not super fair to Coach Alexander, and especially having to compete for funds with like arguably the most like revered like athletics figure, like, well, yeah, I'll say arguably the most revered athletics figure in K-State history, Colin Klein. Like, I think at this point he's done enough to get an arguable win, considering him with like Bill Snyder and Micah Hearn and Ernie Barrett, next winner maybe. Like, there's probably a long list of people there, but not the time.
Not the time. Not the time for this debate. The point is, Casey Alexander is basically coughing baby when it comes to fundraising up against hydrogen bomb that is Colin Klein.
Yeah, which ultimately, well, some of that is Casey Alexander's job. A lot of that's Gene Taylor's job, like to drum up funds, which like he was able to help with for Colin Klein. Although to be fair, Colin Klein I think probably draws in a lot of that excitement just by virtue of his name. He I think is able to stretch the K-State donor base more than anyone else would have. And that is part of why he was like such a no-brainer hire for K-State right now for football. But Casey Alexander, he doesn't have that pre-standing relationship. He has a perception, whether right or wrong, that he was like a settled for hire, which I don't wholly agree with. But we'll have to work to make people want to donate to his program. Like there's not just going to be like a revolving cash machine like Jerome Tang had.
Which is
that's another factor, is Tang burned some bridges that either going to take a while to repair or may not be reparable.
Yeah. The point is, it's early on in the cycle. If you are looking for reasons for optimism, it is still early on in the cycle. Names are still entering the transfer portal. But I think if you're looking at it objectively, things are looking a little grim as of right now. That said, I still think that Casey Alexander, and maybe this is just for the sake of my sanity, I still think that somehow Casey Alexander, by virtue of being able to coach basketball, fields at least a comparable, if not better, team next year. Just because there was one person on the coaching staff in this previous year who I think was qualified to coach an X's and O's game. And even then, he wasn't good at it, and that was Matthew Driscoll. I would say he meets qualifications. That's it. So I think the coaching will be infinitely better. if the talent is worse, which it almost certainly will be. But it'll balance out, and we just have to give him a few years to sort of build the team his way. And for better or worse, I think that he is going to get that time because there will be no appetite to do anything different.
Yeah. Poor
Anyway,
Casey.
yeah, that poor man. Like it's such a shame. Anyway, now we can talk about the Batcats, who 2-2 week beat TCU in a barn burner on a sacrifice fly to walk off the game, then lost twice. At this point, it's the same story every damn game. We can't pitch the ball. James Guyette goes 3 innings, gives up 6 runs in the first game, 3 walks, only 3 strikeouts. Taz Butler goes 3 2/3, gives up 4 total runs, 3 of them earned with 2 strikeouts. And then Adam Arthur with the most confusing stat line of 2/3 of an inning, 4 walks, no runs allowed. Fascinating. And then Miles Smith comes in for 1 2/3 with 2 strikeouts. So, I mean, it's just the first 2. James Guyette and Taz Butler. They just, I mean, we won this game, but still, this is one of those games where you look at it and you're like, okay, can we pitch a little better? And the answer is no. But at least the bats are still good. And Connor, I'm going to give you the honor of talking about the bats this entire episode because I did.
Yeah. Well, the bats in this first game, I guess we got the right ones in this one because we hit really well in this game. Nick English, he led off 1 for 5 with a run, but he did strike out 3 times. So you have to be 0 for to get the Golden Sombreros or just any 3 strikeouts.
You have to go 0 for.
Okay, so he narrowly avoids, but you're on notice, Nick English. Micah Kendrick went 1 for 1. This is a revenge series for Micah Kendrick. He was formerly of TCU. D. Kennedy, 1 for 2, scored a couple runs, 2 RBI, 2 walks, and most notably, he had the game-winning sacrifice fly that off the bat I thought was going to be a game-winning grand slam, but the outcome was just fine either way.
It's same general outcome.
And then Bear Madliak, he went 1 for 4 with an RBI and drew a walk. AJ Vasco 2 for 5 with an RBI. Carlos Vasquez had a great game, 3 for 4, 3 RBI, scored a couple runs, had a home run. Then Shintaro Inoue continued his hot streak, 2 for 4, and drew a walk as well. So a great game for him. And Grant Gallagher, 1 for 4. Ty Smolinski, 1 for 4. And Caden Carl, 1 for 3, drew a walk and had a 3-run home run. So Caden Carl has continued his just renaissance, I guess, because we needed someone to step up in center field very badly with Robbie Bolin losing him for injury, and the same with Dante Lewis. And Caden Carl has really stepped up. And he was already a great defender, but it was a liability at the plate, and he has completely turned that around.
Yeah, and he's still good in the field as well, which is really just what you need. I also want to give flowers to Shintaro Inoue because, good God, he started the year off horribly, but he's really sort of warmed up towards the middle part of the schedule, and yeah, we may as well just double down on the strength being offense. Just go out and throw BP and hope they keep getting under it and just hope for flyouts. I feel like I'm being very negative about the pitching staff, but that's because there's very little positive to say other than, hey, we're getting a pitching lab next year, which, maybe if we have a different pitching coach, I don't think Rudy Darrow is a bad man. I do think that it is time.
If you gave me a chemistry, like a world-class chemistry lab, it would just be a world-class chemistry lab with an idiot in it. You got to know how to use the tools.
Yeah.
Which maybe he does, but
I doubt it, which is why that my pounding the table has been just kind of gank one of the Royals analytics pitching guys, which will never happen. But they did hire the Royals, I should say, hired the architect of the Wake Forest pitching lab to serve as one of their lead analytics guys. Again, not going to happen. We probably have to get one of his understudies if we're looking that way. And at that point, you probably have just as good a hit rate with getting a guy from a JUCO. Weirdly enough, JCC, Johnson County Community College. So yeah, 3Cs has, I always have to count. They always have a really good pitching staff. I think Cloud County Community College has also recently had really good pitching staffs. Obviously, neither have experience with a pitching lab, but at some point, we have a ton of sports science majors at K-State. Let them fight in like blood sport to get that experience, because I guarantee you there are sports science majors who would kill each other to get that job. But the next game for K-State was a loss, one that wasn't really close. K-State jumped out in front 3-0 and then got 9-3'd. So again, more pitching, but at least this time it's not horrendous. You'll take 6 earned runs as like a college starter through 5 1/3. It's not great, but you'll accept it, especially with 6 strikeouts. Austin Haley only giving up 1 earned run and 2 2/3 is actually good. Aiden Longoria, 2 earned runs in 1 inning. Yeah, it's not good, but at that point the game was over.
Yeah, definitely a weird game because K-State really jumped out to a great start with that D. Kennedy triple. Bear Madliak doubled, and then a sac fly from Vasquez. Yeah, but from there on, it was just TCU kind of chipping away here and there, and you blink, and all of a sudden you're down 6 after you started the game up 3-0, which really, really stinks. This was a game that could have been winnable for K-State. And for what it's worth, K-State actually did do decently at getting base runners on in this game. I think almost every inning they got the lead runner on base and then couldn't do anything with it, which is really unfortunate. But not a ton of notable performances here. D. Kennedy, 2 for 4. Bear Madliak, 2 for 4 as well. Micah Hendrick went 1 for 2 and drew a couple of walks. And Ty Spolonsky went 2 for 4 as well. That is basically it from the notable performances. I do think one thing that is noteworthy, but this is more of just a quirk from the box score, is that if we look at the base running category for the K-State offense, there's stolen base, a caught stealing, a hit by pitch, and a pickoff, and all of them are Caden Carl.
Yeah. Yep. That's just weird. It just happens.
Yeah, I just thought that looked funny.
Yeah, even funnier that Caden Carl took an offer and did not walk.
Yeah, and
but
his time on base was very eventful. So.
Yeah. K-State drops the series finale as well. This time, the pitching arguably did do their part. 4-0 was the TCU victory, so we just couldn't score. Very rare problem for K-State to have, but Matt Flores got the open. I'm going to call it the opener, not the start, because it's only going 2 1/3. Gives up 3 earned runs. Aaron Arnold goes 2 innings, 1 earned. Cole Weisenmaker, 0+ again, with a walk and a wild pitch, 5 pitches. Let it go, man. It's like the picture of that backpack that's hanging on by a single thread. You just gotta let the damn thing go. But it's Miles Smith, 1 2/3, didn't give up any runs. Cohen Feeser, 2, didn't give up any runs. And then Adam Arthur, the better lefty, went 1 inning with 2 strikeouts. So pitching did their part this game, and this feels like one of those wins from a few years ago. You remember the Cole Johnson team where if the bats were going, the pitchers weren't. If the pitchers were going, the bats sure weren't. This felt like one of those classic games. And, you and I, for as much nostalgia as we have for those teams, damn it, were they frustrating.
Yeah. This was a really unfortunate loss. These last two, in particular, TCU starting pitching, both of them came in not having incredible numbers. That's Lance Davis and Zach James. And we made them look like Cy Young winners out there. Like Lance Davis, I think, had a 6.5 plus ERA in the Saturday game, and he went 6 2/3 with just 3 earned. And then Zach James, he came into the game presumably not even as good. He went 8 innings against us and just 98 pitches. Just utter domination. And one thing that we saw a lot of from the K-State offense this weekend was we were popping up a lot. So the scout was basically out, I think, on what to do with K-State batters. And it's set them up breaking high fastball. And they're going to make contact probably, but it's going to be probably pretty weak contact. Like, yeah, you may throw some mistakes here and there, but basically don't pitch to them because they mash. Like, make them chase and make them be patient, which we can for a while, but we were just desperate the whole game on Sunday. And we were reaching, and I think we kind of got away from what had made us such an effective offensive team, which was that patience. K-State, one of the better teams in the country in the drawing of walks this season. We only drew 1 all game on Sunday. Really, just not good enough. Caden Carl got hit by a pitch again, and but yeah, like that. Also, the few opportunities we had, we just didn't cash them in. So we had our chances, but yeah, just putting balls in play and just we couldn't do enough with them. Just a really frustrating loss and a really frustrating series loss.
Yeah, and I mean, at least we beat we beat Wichita State in the midweek, even though it was a little scary, kind of watching them claw back a little bit. But we did end up beating them 10-6, where the starter was Tanner Duke, who goes 5 innings, 5 earned runs, which is fine, but somehow managed to give up 10 hits and only give up 5 earned, which word. Then Robert Fortenberry, 2 1/3, only 1 run. It's not earned. Then Taz Butler came in to close it out, going 1 2/3, only giving up 1 hit. So a good pitching performance against a Wichita State team that is, I mean, kind of in the same tier record-wise. I think we definitely outpace them in RPI just because we're in a better conference. But this doesn't move me.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, like, this was if we drop this game, then pull the fire alarm sort of deal. But interestingly, it seems like Pete kind of used this game as a developmental game almost for the lineup. We saw a lot of names in there that we don't always see in the starting lineup. Kyan Lotus, who we do see a lot, and we all know him. He hasn't started as much as of late. Then Bear Magliak went DH. We let Shea McGahan start behind the plate. We haven't seen as much of Shea McGahan recently because Bear has just been so good at the plate. But McGahan, they pitched around him for some reason. He drew a couple walks and also had a hit. Then Chandler Murray got a start as well at first base, and he had an RBI hit and also drew a walk, which we haven't seen a ton of him. He hasn't hit particularly well this year as a redshirt freshman, but it's still nice to see him make the most of an opportunity. I think Caden Carl, he was the highlight of the game. Went 2 for 3 in this one. and on top of that, stole 2 bases and had a highlight reel web gem home run robbery out in center field. And it wasn't just like when a receiver like jumps to catch a ball that they like don't need to. It wasn't one of those. It was like a genuine, like, if he did not time it right, it was going to be a home. And he played it perfect and got us a second out in that inning. And it's really unfortunate that I think we ended up giving up a 2-out rally that inning because all the aura was lost by us proceeding to completely fumble any momentum that we could have garnished from that excellent play from Caden.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we won the midweek, and I don't want to talk down to it, but it's hard to say up to this point that the season has been a massive success. I mean, we have a winning record. We're almost certainly going to be a postseason team. We're better. We actually have an above 500 record away from Taunton, which that's like a first. But our home winning record isn't where it normally is. We're 9-6 at home, 6-5 away, 6-1 at neutral sites, 5-7 in conference. And weirdly enough, we're like going against our twin, because Oklahoma State has the exact same record, I think. Either that or they've played one fewer game, so they have one fewer loss.
No, they're the same.
They're the same. They can't play away either. They have a negative away record, but they destroy Worlds at home in Stillwater. But we're getting them in Manhattan. We've both played a Utah team that is not very good and lost the series to them despite expectations. I mean, we're basically just like non-baseball history Oklahoma State right now. We are at the exact same point in the season, and this might be the series where one goes up, the other goes way down, and it depends on who wins the series. I still think both are probably postseason teams, but the difference might be, high 3 seed where you're not getting sent to, Starkville, where you're not basically getting nuked from orbit, or low 3 seed where you're happy you made the tournament and you're going to get pantsed on national television. Like that's kind of the difference between this series here. So this might have become the most important series of the year for K-State in terms of seeding, simply because, we're both in the exact same place right now. And granted, later on, we do play the same schools that they've already played. We do play Cincinnati and UCF, who, they've also played. So I think that on committee day, if it comes down to it between Oklahoma State and K-State for who's getting a higher seed, it's going to be the winner of this series, which makes it, right now, the most important series that's left on the schedule. We're probably going to drop all 3 against Arizona because they're kind of on a different level right now.
You're thinking of Arizona State, buddy.
Oh, never mind. My bad. All right, is Arizona State, or is Arizona not good this year?
They were projected top 10, and they're 11-21.
Sick. We do stand a chance. But
that is a series that if we drop it, I will be mad, actually. They are RPI 192 and not very good.
So never mind. West Virginia is the away series, we'll say. But yeah, it's a very important series. I imagine, Connor, will you be in attendance for at least a few of those games in Manhattan?
Yes, I will. I think I'll be there Friday. I'd like to be there one of these Saturday/Sunday games as well. And then, we have a game next Tuesday against Omaha that's almost certainly going to get RPI'd, if I had to guess, because we're just kind of in that area again. But, yeah, that Arizona game. Then we also have a road game at Grand Canyon, which I figured probably will get RPI'd too because they're 11-22. I'm assuming we scheduled them thinking they would be good again because they've kind of taken a step up, but like Arizona, they are not great. Sunflower Showdown, KU has been on a bit of a roll recently. They went up and beat Nebraska and Lincoln a few nights ago in the midweek. Then we go to Lincoln and get Nebraska. That's going to be the season series rubber match there. But then, yeah, that West Virginia series is huge, and that UCF series is massive as well. UCF was kind of an afterthought coming into conference play, and right now they're number one in the Big 12. And they just went on the road to Morgantown and took a series there against West Virginia. So, like, we have a very challenging schedule left. But on the flip side of that, that means we have a lot of opportunities to bolster our RPI, which, for what it's worth, despite the struggles that we've had since that Baylor game back almost a month ago at this point, we're still RPI 43 right now. And a lot of that is because a lot of our non-conference games have aged pretty well. Iowa has fought tooth and nail to keep their RPI sub triple digits. They're 84. Auburn's still a top 10 team in RPI. That went over Nebraska is aging really well too. Their RPI 31. And Michigan is kind of an RPI darling right now as well. We beat them. They're 42nd. Those losses at Louisiana are not hurting us because those were quad one games, I'm pretty sure, because they are RPI 46. So that's helping us out right now quite a bit. Baylor, they're RPI 39 right now. So that run roll win on the road, that's helping us a ton. So the scheduling maneuvers put on by Pete Hughes once again, they're keeping us in the hunt for postseason. Obviously, we can't completely collapse, but right now we are at a point where I think if the season ended, I think we'd probably be in. Doesn't take away from the disappointments the last few weeks. We should have taken the series against Arizona State. We definitely should have taken the series against Utah. And given how we played, it's tough for me to say that we should have taken the series against TCU because we put up 17 straight scoreless innings of K-State baseball, which is just crazy to say in this season of all seasons. But there are ups and downs in a baseball season. We're a long way removed from that 9-game win streak that we had at one point. So, but Oklahoma State, that's a big opportunity. I think we could really stand to maybe bat them around a little bit. I think we need to get the bats going again.
Yeah, definitely. Although we are standing pretty well in RPI, I'd rather not leave things to chance because of previous history. But
yes.
Do you have any final notes before we sign off?
No, nothing else from me.
All right. Well, other than it's now Jake Nard hours, so plan accordingly. That's the day that this comes out. He will be on his visit, which you didn't know, that's a number 2 quarterback in the country who has long been considered an Iowa lean, but we're trying. If you're wondering why he's an Iowa lean as a quarterback in the year of our Lord 2026, his dad went there. That's really it. But thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I'm at ACEdward00.
I am at Connor Bouncler, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store. Link found in our podcast Twitter bio. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.